Well, we got to start out a little introduction with the silver and economic and whatever update with Putin the cat. Putin the cat is a little bit like Putin the human. He's got to steal the other guy's cat food, but that's about the extent of it. You know, he doesn't take billions and billions of dollars, doesn't invade other countries, and doesn't say like weird bullshit statements I'm going to go through that Vladimir Putin did. But he's a good kitty cat. He'd make a great leader. And he's an Abby. He's an Abyssinian, part Abyssinian. You can tell by the two lines up there, the dark gray to white fade. And, you know, in reference to Abby of Russia Today, who came from We Are Change, buzzword of communism, who's been making all kinds of excuses for Vladimir Putin. I want to get into some of this stuff right now because I looked at the posted English translation of Vladimir Putin before I get into this silver update, because actually a little more of a hodgepodge of update, whatever the hell you want to call it. But basically, Vladimir Putin was talking about Mr. Kolomonsky was appointed one of the governors of one of the prefectures, I guess, in Ukraine. He goes, this guy was a unique crook. He even managed to cheat our oligarch Roman Abramovich. 2 or 3 years ago, he scammed him. So he scammed Roman. But this is what he said. This is what Vladimir Putin said. This is where I was like, wow, the bullshit detector not only went full tilt, it freaking went around the planet 3 times, you know? Abramovich transferred several $1 billion to this guy up front, because he signed to some deal. What the hell? I'm telling you right now, you know what? Any of these guys, the richer they are, the less they freaking give people. You know, the philanthropy game, East and West, anybody across the world. I mean, it's general. It's just how this breed of human is. You know, I talked about squirrels like will not grab all the acorns and tell all the other squirrels, go screw, and you guys starve. Only people do that kind of certain people do that kind of shit. And the wealthier they are, the worse they are. And, you know, I'm going to tell you right now, any of these oligarchs in Russia, and this goes for everybody across the globe, if they saw a pauper that needed 10 rubles on the side of the street, you know, maybe for political publicity purposes, they'd give him some money and have all the cameras go click, click, click. But otherwise, they wouldn't give him crap unless they knew they had guarantees. So this guy, supposedly Roman, he transferred several $1 billion to this guy because he signed some deal and he got ripped off and the guy didn't make good on it and he lost his money. It's not like, hey, yo, give me a fin for a pack of cigarettes. You know what? These oligarchs and anybody with wealth has way more brains than that. I mean, this was actually right off of Vladimir Putin's translation from his own posted, you know, interview. And he goes, there was one of the questions that was put to Vladimir Putin, you know, about the soldiers. But they were Russian soldiers or not, right? Were they Russian soldiers or not? These were all local self-defense units. That's what Vladimir Putin says. Wow, baby. I could trust you. Anyway, silver is doing fantastic against the Russian ruble. Let me put it this way. It's all relative. Against the U.S. dollar, it's kind of sitting flat. But against the Russian ruble, it's charging ahead. But of course, according to Russian propaganda news outlets and all the alternative media like Rivero and all those other clowns out there that couldn't say squat against Vladimir Putin over in Russia because they'd be hanging from the gallows. Only in a place where the land of the free and we have freedom of speech can you make throw all kinds of dirt against Western leaders left and right and get away with it. You know, that's the alternative media for you. And, you know, I think they wouldn't fight for the Western real Western way of life, which is #1 of the Bill of Rights is freedom of speech, and they wouldn't do it in a million years. They're a bunch of, I don't know, drama freaks for money. And, you know, I'm going to be quite honest with you, man. I feel a lot better about doing videos on how to do stuff, car videos. You know, I just had somebody come back to me today and wrote and said that, man, you saved me a lot of money with my Sebring convertible, Chrysler Sebring convertible. I thought I had to do this and this, and now I could buy some tires because I need tires. And I was so happy to freaking do that for that guy. You know what? Really, tell you the truth, that's why I like doing some of these car videos, to tell you the truth, man. I help out the average people instead of somebody just wanting to click on a button and make a whole bunch of money. Because you know what? I don't tell you all those deals, man. I don't throw those kind of deals out here. I give general, common sense advice. And what I'm mainly combating is the drama freaks in the alternative media and the major media, which they're both freaking wrong. And I'm just putting out common sense. I'm not going to throw out any kind of secret information or anything like that. But that's just how it is. You're not going to ever find it on the internet anyway. You wouldn't. I don't give a damn how freaking much you look. You don't find out certain things on the internet, period. Actually, I hinted at a few things, but this guy Putin is ludicrous, man. It's kind of funny. So anyway, it looks like they're trying to the all drama freaks in the alternative media are saying like Russia's gonna dump the U.S. debt, and they pretty much already have. They're dumping it as fast as they can. They have been. I don't think they even have any U.S. debt. They're going to dump the U.S. dollar. I'm going to tell you right now, the Russian oligarchs don't want the freaking ruble. The ruble's been tanking. They don't even use the freaking ruble, man. They're already banking outside of Russia. As a matter of fact, there's more Russian companies that moved back into Cyprus in the beginning of 2014. In that month, it was like a record month for new registered corporations. In other words, see, Cyprus has major tax advantages. See, this is where all these freaking yo-yos in the alternative media make me want it. They're freaking idiots. See, Cyprus has major tax advantages. It used to be 10% corporate income tax on ordinary income. And you compare that with France, which is 33 1/3. Now I think Cyprus corporate income tax, on ordinary income, I think it's either 12 or 12.5%. I forgot which one it was. But their capital gains, wow, it's like, And they got companies buried into companies and buried into companies and buried into companies. And they always transfer like all kinds of small amounts of funds because you got to keep it under a certain amount where, it doesn't alert the authorities. So they'll have companies in Belarus and stuff like that, all over South America. They'll have companies registered in, a lot of times in Nevada, in Vegas and stuff, all kinds of companies, all kinds of shell companies left and right. But the Russians have moved back into Cyprus, and you know what? It's not because they're freaking using the ruble. No, man, they're using freaking euros and a U.S. dollar. I'm serious, man. They are. I mean, they're loaded. This guy is so ridiculous. But anyway, you saw Abby, the real Abby. Abby is a cat. It's not a human. Abby is a cat. Just remember that. Anyway, it looks like, we talked about the freaking big collapse happening here in March, but I gotta freaking tell you this stuff first. The difference between what I say and the alternative media says and the major media says, I'm going to tell you right now, the dollar is not going to go to oblivion. I think what will happen, I'm pretty sure of this, and I don't think there's really like a rigid game plan 100%, but I think what's going to happen is they'll come out with a global reserve currency. It may include the dollar, but there's going to be a global reserve currency. And what's going to happen eventually is all the currencies, especially all the major currencies in all the respective countries, are still going to be used locally. What's going to happen is the dollar is going to lose a lot of purchasing power. That's what's going to happen. And, that's what's been going on, actually. If you look back the last 100 years, I mean, for crying out loud, it's a slow process. But if you look back the last 100 years of what happened with the ruble, you could have millions and millions of rubles back in 1917, before, at the time of the Bolshevik Revolution. And if the ruble got devalued so many times, it wouldn't even be worth 1 ruble today. That's how bad it went. They talk about the Federal Reserve losing 90-something% of the value of the dollar since the Federal Reserve came into existence in 1913. Even as bad as that is, it's not even close to what goes on with the ruble. So, I mean, a lot of these threats from Russia are ridiculous. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous beyond belief. But just remember, the game of the type of people that are on the top in Russia, well, actually, there's even more skewed income over there. It's the same deal. It's the same deal. The alternative media in the United States is a total hands-off policy on criticizing anything that goes on in Russia with Vladimir Putin, any of the oligarchs, which tells me I don't know what the hell the deal is with these guys, because there's something fishy. You know, like Abby came from "we are change." Change to means a buzzword for change the system, throw out the Constitution, throw out the Bill of Rights. We need change because it just doesn't work, right? Is that how the game's supposed to be played? It's a buzzword. That's a communist buzzword. Obama used that word for his election, you know, and Clinton used that word, you know, Clinton for change, right? Same kind of deal. And I got news for people out there in La La Land. The military, by and large, could stand Bill Clinton or Barack Obama. In the case of Bill Clinton, actually, I think had a brain, though. He actually had a heart in a lot of ways. But in the case of Barack Obama, I think we got a guy there that is so much owned head to toe that it might as well be a hologram produced by a computer because he's a little bit more than a teleprompter. It's almost like, you know, everything that comes out of a Barack Obama is directly input into him. That's exactly what it is. That's what's scary about the situation with this guy, because somebody else or other group of people is actually running the nation, people that we did not elect at all, despite appearances. Which, you know, hey, that's pretty much been the way it's always been, right? But I just want to point out this common sense thing, because there's another angle people aren't looking at, and it's too common sense. I'm not, like I'm telling you, I'm putting out common sense. I'm not, you know, I work, well, I don't want to even say, you know, I hinted at some of the freaking super deals we were doing, but I'm not throwing out any more of that because it's like it just goes right over people's heads, and, you know, back to Alex Jones and, you know, or whatever, David Icke and the lizard people. But actually, some of the stuff I put out, that was real. It was real. Some deals that were astronomically big that you wouldn't believe. And, but, you know, I'm not going to put out all kinds of details on that, or who was involved, or what's involved, or whatever. I'm never going to. That's simple. But they're all legal. They're all legal. And, you know, I hinted at what was really wrong with the derivatives bubble, is because at one side of the market, one side took the money, on the other side there's this liability sitting out there, but that's not really shown as a liability on the books. But this is the whole deal. The most connected people that have the most wealth are connected to the financial system. Let's not talk about the 1%, let's talk about the 1 basis point or even below that, right? What's going on is they got a rigged casino system to the max. By you buying silver, you're not partaking in their system. But that's not your only strategy. You have to do things on your own. You actually have to, that's my strategy. And I play low key all the way, right down to earth, because first off, you know, you're an idiot if you go around saying you got, you know, I shouldn't even be saying this right now, but you've got all kinds of money because somebody wants to come over and fix your electric or something like that, and you tell them, oh yeah, I just won a lottery. They're going to freaking bill you accordingly, man. You know what I mean? You play poor, you always play poor. And, you know, I learned this lesson a while ago from some people. You know, a guy that used to have the first Toyota dealership in Central Florida, and drives the old Toyota Avalon with 170,000 miles on it, plays low profile. He's retired, you know. He's retired. That's his car, man. That's his car. Old Toyota Avalon. Or he had that. That's what he had before. I picked up on a few of those people that were like that. Some people, you know, where you actually get into where you drive the freaking fancier cars is when you got to impress people that you know how to make money. In other words, you're bullshitting people. Because that's what the suit and tie is about, and that's what the Mercedes BMW is about. And the Audi. You know what I mean? And I'm in a club and I know how to do things, you know. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. So I play real informal. But what I'm telling you is common sense. I want to tell you one thing. Common sense is something, it's, you know, people will call it horse sense if they're from the country. I'm using common sense because I'm using the word. Actually, business people call it business sense. They'll call it business sense. That is really the most important thing there is out there, because what happens is you can get lied to a million different ways with statistics, charts, and all kinds of cute talk, inflections of voice, and everything else, and you're just missing the whole deal. You're missing the whole deal. Now, I like silver because it's outside the freaking banking system, man. That's what the whole deal is. But you got to remember, how is the casino making the money? How are they making the money? Off the freaking financial system. Why? How is that less than one basis point making the money. So you actually, if you really want to put it simplistically, what's wrong with the freaking economy? Most of the money's going into the hands of the very, very few. And it's not a matter of we need change. We need to go back to our root, what should be, what the Constitution says. Beware of any organization that has the buzzword change, and beware of any politician that uses the buzzword change as their campaign slogan. Because it's not that we need change. We need to adhere to our real American system all the way. That's all there is to it. But I had to share with you this damn thing about Roman. I don't think this guy Roman is a bad guy, man. It's like it's like it's Putin telling us about this Roman Abramovich, that he transferred several $1 billion to some other guy because he signed him a deal. Who the hell would do that? Who would wire, like, all kinds of money to somebody and say, I signed a deal, okay, I'll wire you the money right now, and here, it's just some several $1 billion. You think this guy would even freaking been up to the point he is now if he was that stupid? Who the hell does that shit? I mean, if you had somebody come in there and it was going to trim your trees or something like that on your land, on your property, would you, like, I'm going to wire you the money right now, and no, you don't even do that with freaking subcontractors, for crying out loud. You pay them after the job's done right. You might have to put a little deposit down. Several $1 billion isn't a little deposit. He goes, yeah, you got scammed. I said, well, I thought it would never happen. I mean, like, man, just wire me $1 million. I mean, $1 million is like a tenth of a penny compared to $1 billion, and he wired several billion, right? So what the hell? But anyway, these are the stories that Putin puts out, and this is a big indication that Putin is surrounded by yes men to the max. This guy's a dictator, man. That's another indication, because he's putting out. I mean, anybody who looks at this stuff, it's like, where the hell are you coming from, Putin? Were they Russian soldiers or not? No, those were local self-defense units. Yeah, really, huh? Tanks and stuff like that, unmarked trucks, old Russian manufacturer, old Russian uniforms without the insignia, Russian weapons, Russian hats and everything without the insignia, Russian helicopters. Yeah, those are self-defense forces. Hey, come on, buddy. I'm telling you right now, this guy, he must be surrounded by yes men to the max. It's amazing in the West how they worship this guy. But what's going on? We got a big propaganda outlets coming from the alternative media. Not even state-sponsored Russia Today, but all the alternative media. Salente, Rivero, even Alex Jones. I mean, they're all freaking putting this crap out. Oh, yeah, Putin's the good guy. No, he ain't. No, he ain't. Like I said, meet the new boss worse than the old boss. And I'm going to tell you right now, again, this kind of crap with the oligarchs in Russia and everything else and the power struggles they have over there and how they... basically what happens is Putin is, in my opinion, is somebody that investigates and prosecutes anybody that's competition to the inside club. Or if, somebody else is doing good and they're getting some kind of money, we got to buy up your company real cheap. We're going to destroy it this way. You're under investigation for this, that, and that. And you're a crook, you're this, you're that. And then the club gets the money. And he gets some money too. So he gets... It's interesting, he's not even on a Forbes list. What the hell kind of list is that? But anyway, I went off on a tangent on this, but just want to tell you again and remind you again, silver is doing stellar against the ruble, the Russian ruble. For the last year, silver's freaking doing great, man. You know why? Because the Russian ruble is going like this. It's diving, man. So if the dollar goes like this, the Russian ruble is kind of going like even faster. Because, look at history. In 1913, the Federal Reserve came out, and it's like 90-something% of the dollar's purchasing power went away. Well, since the Bolshevik Revolution happened in Russia, which was sponsored by certain Western elitists, I know this. It's not like it's all the will of the Russian people. I know this. What happened to the ruble? It went down to billions of percent. Not just, 90-something%. It went down billions of percent. It's worth like squat. Like you'd have to have millions and millions of rubles to equal 1 ruble. Literally, over the past 100 years. That's what's happened. So, I mean, Meet the old. That's why I say this alternative media is bad news, man. They're just as screwed up as the major media. But stick with your silver investment, and don't take any rubles unless they're free. If Abramovich or Putin wants to transfer you a billion rubles, hey, take it. I'll take it. I don't know. If you want to do that, fine, thanks.